Hello, my name is Aaron Kavanagh and I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of Post-Burnout.com. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. This is our website's podcast where we publish full-length recordings of our interviews, which are sometimes the unedited versions of our site's articles and at other times are exclusives. If you're a returning listener, thank you for coming back, and if this is your first time listening, thank you for checking us out. We hope you enjoy and consider subscribing, giving the episodes a thumbs up if you're on YouTube, or giving it a rating if you're anywhere else. It really helps us out. Thank you. In this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, vocalist Tony O'Donovan, guitarist Peter Piggott, and drummer Cian Doherty of the Cork/Clare indie band Diveboy discuss their recent single Suntrap, the reason for changing your name from the Burma to Diveboy, the history of the band, working on their upcoming toured album with Ed Sheeran producer Ruadhrí Cushnan, how this album differs from the rest of their discography, and much more.
How are things?
How's it
Aaron.
going? You alright?
Hey, Aaron.
Hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you all. How are you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Very well. I wanted to start off by asking. Obviously, recently there was the name change from the Burma to Diveboy. I was really interested in this because, kind of doing this sort of just before your third record comes out. You then have to kind of retroactively fit everything for the new band name. So I was wondering, what was that kind of process actually like to do?
It was pretty intensive, wasn't it? There was a lot to change over. You kind of forget exactly how much you need to change over until you're kind of in the middle of it. Even with the streaming and all that stuff, all of our music was uploaded. Peter kind of looked after all of that, and that was pretty intensive for you, Pete, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about 2 weeks of kind of kind of holding your breath, really, thinking, is it all going to swap over properly? And luckily we kept all of our streams and stuff that we had that was associated with the old name, that all swapped over. But there was things here, there, now, right, that just we had to start from scratch from, really. Yeah.
And also our website as well, that had to be switched over. And then our we wanted to keep our email, our business email, but without starting a new one, and just changing that whole contact setup. So we were actually able to do that. We just can forward now the old email into our same business email and stuff. And but yeah, a lot tougher, I think, than we realized. Also, some of the pages, it didn't all go to plan either. We lost our Spotify followers and stuff like that. So we kept our streams but lost our followers. On YouTube, there's a glitch on our YouTube channel that we've changed it over, but it still says the Burma on certain parts of it. So
what kind of with all that in mind, what kind of inspired the change in the name?
It was, see, the band, the name the Burma actually was derived from me and Peter from Cove in Cork, and there's these steps in Cove called the Burma Steps, and they're kind of famous in Cove, or infamous, whatever way you want to look at it, just for
that's where the teens hang out and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But over time, we were getting a lot of questions about the country, but obviously it's Myanmar as well and stuff, and it got a bit cloudy in places, a bit too cloudy for our liking, really. And it was it was never about that, it was about the steps in Cove, obviously, and it was just something we were thought that it might maybe potentially become a problem down the road for us. It's just something we didn't want to get involved in, so we just decided to get out ahead of it. We thought it was a good time now to maybe get out ahead of it, just where we're at, kind of as a band at the moment. We didn't want to let it go any further, just in case. And yeah, and we were pretty happy with Diveboy as a name too. We're all happy to drive on with that. We like it as a name, I think.
How'd that name come about?
Over a long arduous 6 months. Jesus, I'd say if I went back into my notes now on my phone, we had 1,000 names. But it was actually we cover Barn Slippy in as part of our set. We mix it in with one of our songs, and it's a lyric in there. At least we thought it was, since we realized he might actually be saying dog boy, so it might be our totally own creation. But thought it was from there. Yeah.
I want to ask, like, so the band's actually been around for, I think, since about 2012. Is that correct? And obviously, you guys didn't start releasing music until about 2018, 19. So I was wondering, like, kind of, what was the band doing in that period of time?
Well, it started out as like, yeah, like there's been a few incarnations of the band. Like me and Pete have kind of been in it from the start. We were like, it was just like a school band really at the start. We had a totally different name. We were, doing pub gigs and stuff. And we're kind of going well for a while. We did I don't know, do you remember a competition called the Red Bull Bedroom Jam?
Oh, yes, I do remember that, yeah.
We ended up doing that and getting to the final of that in Whelan's and stuff. And we had a good like local following and stuff, to be fair. We brought like a bus up to Whelan's with us and stuff that time. But we kind of decided, which I don't know, in hindsight, we'd all the momentum, and then we decided to take a year out and change the name, and we just wanted to become kind of more serious original band, So we took like a year to write songs and stuff, and we just didn't gig for like a year. And we changed our name to the Burma, and then but all the time we had been friends with Cian from college, and like Cian was in his own band from Clare and stuff, and we used to play gigs with them in Cypress Avenue, so we were always friends with Cian. Um, and then over time, like we kind of lost a couple of members in the Burma, just like people going to Australia and stuff like that. And eventually, like there was like an opportunity for Cian to come into the band. Like his own band had I think you weren't together anymore, Cian, at that stage, were you?
Yeah.
At that point, yeah. And then Cian came into the band around 2018, where you're talking about those first releases. That's kind of when we got, yeah, very serious then, kind of with releasing stuff and just a bit more professional, I think.
What was the name of the band before the Burma?
Yeah.
Okay, you keep tight-lipped.
It's all out there online anyway. I'm sure anyone who wants to look hard enough will find it.
So I wanted to ask, so like, once this project as it exists now kind of like got moving, like, have you been finding it? I mean, like, has it been more gradual, or do you think like there's been kind of like I don't know, spells of success and things like that? I mean, how's it kind of like been working for you? Because like obviously you played Glastonbury last year. I mean, that's a big deal. Do you find like that's like sort of I don't know how to phrase this correctly, but kind of like where you feel you should be at that point, or is that just kind of like a lucky break, or how do you feel about, I guess, the success of the band?
It really ebbs and flows, like that was definitely the peak of our career so far, like playing Glastonbury. But we were hoping to get a good bit off the back of that. Not as a result of it necessarily, just to tie in with it, like, and get a good bit of momentum going last year in terms of gigs and stuff. But whatever way it happened, it just didn't work out. Like, we had a few gigs, all right, but not like as busy of a schedule as we were hoping for. And we also, that was when we were in the middle of recording this album, so we didn't have any new music to release then. So I suppose in a way, like Glastonbury, as well and all as it went, like, and it did go like amazingly, but it would have been nice to maybe do it this year. It maybe would have tied in a bit more with our album this year. But we were delighted to get the lucky break and get it last year at the same time. But for us in general, I think it kind of ebbs and flows. You have your busy periods, and then you've your kind of quieter periods. But this album, we've been kind of particularly quiet because of this whole name change, and kind of planning the name change and writing and recording this album and getting it ready. So like the last year, since maybe September, has been pretty quiet for us, like, publicly speaking. But we're hoping that we've just released, obviously, that new single Suntrap last Friday, and from now on we're hoping to be quite busy for the next 18 months or so.
Yeah, you mentioned Suntrap there. It's been out for about a week now as we're speaking, and I was wondering how you found the kind of reception to it, because this is, if I'm correct, this is like the first track release off this upcoming album. So yeah, I was wondering why you kind of like chose it as the debut.
It was one of the first songs we wrote for the new album, and I think one of the first ones that we were really like, yeah, this is a great tune, or like, so we were confident in it. We were it's just like a nice, we feel it's a nice kind of fresh sound for us, and that ties in with our new name and stuff. And so the first piece of music we've released in 2 years, or may coming up on 2 years maybe. Um, so it just felt right. It just felt like the right song to release and stuff.
Uh,
And sorry, I just want to say as
no,
well
go
that
ahead.
we're kind of just we're hoping to kind of, it's because we were so quiet. We're hoping that it'll pick up now again. So it's nice to have some new stuff out
Mm.
to release and to be speaking about again. Because we could have been throwing a lot of stuff out on socials last year or so, but we didn't have much to talk about really.
No, that's fair. But like, you're saying like there's been quiet periods, but I mean, like, it's not like you're inactive. I mean, you're doing stuff, like you're constantly gigging, and you've had like some really great support slots along the way. So yeah, I was wondering, like, when you get those like opportunities, does it feel like, I don't know, does it feel like the momentum's constantly going, or are you kind of focused on albums? Like, how do you kind of determine, I guess, your own momentum? Is it based on quantity of releases, or is it just based on everything you're doing?
Um, yeah, I suppose maybe like everything. It's everything. Yeah, everything's taken into consideration. Like that gig that we did. You're talking about support gigs. We did a gig with Kneecap last year, and it
Yeah.
probably would have been in a quiet enough period for us. It was after the album and stuff, and it was just coming to a bit of a lull. But like you pick up a gig like that, and that's huge momentum again. Like so like yeah, it's pretty much like yeah, whether it's gigs, whether it's singles, whether it's I mean, doing stuff like you today is great. Like, just being able to put stuff out there for people to, get more familiar with us. And so yeah, it's pretty much everything we take into consideration that'll kick the can down the road again for a bit.
Are you doing a bigger press release for this? Sorry, press cycle for this album? Like, are you pushing it more than the other two, or do you feel you're kind of like giving it the same kind of welly?
Definitely a different approach anyway. I think we're gonna do a lot of singles, I think, coming up to this one. Probably in the past we might have maybe rushed the process a small bit and kind of it's over before you know it kind of thing.
Yeah,
So gonna take a longer time to build momentum coming up to this album, definitely, I think. Because the tunes are there, we have the singles on the album, so why not, like.
yeah. And one other thing I wanted to ask was, we were talking about like how long the project's been around for. Do you find like, just in terms of like your own, what you listen to, and kind of what you're inspired by, do you think that's changed the direction of the band from, say, when it first began to where it is now? Or like, do new influences kind of creep in as you progress?
Um, I'd say so. Yeah, the three of us probably have like varied kind of interest or taste in music anyway.
Hmm.
So we all kind of, yeah, everyone's influences would change kind of individually as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it has changed a good bit. So like even when we're picking the set now and stuff to play live, some of the songs are clearly like a bit more electronic influence or something than maybe indie.
Hmm.
And kind of yeah, sometimes it's kind of hard to kind of fit it all together a bit. But yeah, I think this album before we start the recording, it was the first time that we really kind of sat down and said, let's try and make something cohesive, and so I think this one is a bit more, the influences a bit more defined, I suppose.
Speaking of the album, I'm not sure how much you're allowed to disclose, so whatever you're allowed to say, but or you wish to disclose rather even. But when it comes to the album, you mentioned that you sort of went in with a kind of overarching sort of theme in mind. Is that how you generally approach the records you've made, or is it just like you build a songbook organically, song by song, and then you look back and you're like, okay, this could be an album? Like, how does that kind of process work?
Um, I think from my point of view, lyrically going into it was definitely the most like kind of focus I've been on, like having a direction, for the album as a whole. Um, I think we did a gig last year for the last album, and we met someone after, and they were asking questions about the lyrics and the album, and I kind of had a realization that it didn't really have like much of a direction, like it was a bit too like sporadic. And there was a lot of stuff in there that was just in there for the sake of it without like having much thought behind it, you know. So I think this time I really did want to sit down and think like what do I want? Who do I want? Who do I envision listening to it like, and you know, what do I want to say and what do I actually care about, you know? So I think lyrically, like I think it's as Peter said, more cohesive definitely this time. Kind of all within the same universe, like, you know. I think the last album probably like there might be 4 or 5 tunes that were in the same universe, and then there was a couple of like aliens, like, you know, that were just like kind of totally different like to the rest of
Sure.
it. Yeah, I think from my point of view anyway, definitely, yeah. I had more of a direction like this time going into this one.
Can you
Another
gesture? Sorry, good.
sorry, another thing we set out to do was like um achieve the album in a totally new kind of experience, you know, with a new process and everything, and new people. And that's when we ended up getting in touch with Ruadhrí Cushnan, who produced and mixed it. And that was a real learning curve for us, working with him and his engineer Alex in Camden in Dublin. Like, they brought a totally new perspective to recording the album. To, you know, we bounced opinions off him a lot. We asked him, what kind of song do you think, what kind of song, so we have, say we have these 5 or 6 songs done, what do you think, what kind of song would the album benefit from, you know, for one of the last 4? We kind of like aimed at 10 songs maybe. So we were kind of writing it the whole time. We didn't write the whole album and then we went to Rory and then recorded it all. It was like a whole year process. We recorded some, then wrote some, and then recorded some. And so that was interesting to get his take, and then to work off that of what kind of song he thought the album needed. So then we went away and we kind of tried to write a song with that in mind.
You mentioned Rory there, so I was going to ask, like, getting him involved, was it a specific record he worked on that made you interested, or was it just kind of his general sort of reputation broadly?
He came recommended to us through a friend that's a producer that we worked with. He's a kind of up and coming producer in Dublin. He's really good. A fella called Cian Sinnott. He recommended Rory to us. And yeah, Cian, you just got in touch with him, didn't you, back then
Yeah,
initially?
I got in touch with him maybe December 2023, I think, and then I met him in January. The two, Tony and Pete, were away, so I went and met him in Camden, and I thought I'd meet him for like 15 minutes or something. I ended up sitting with him for like an hour and a half or 2 hours, just chatting, and um, you know, just listening to his stories and listening to how he approaches albums and songs and just everything, and I just found it really refreshing. And then we kind of went for it. Then after that, we did it kind of, we were always planning on doing the whole album really with him from that point on, but we kind of took it in batches. We did maybe 3 days and then 2 days and then the same thing again. So they were great. And then he introduced us to Alex, who was his engineer, and he was great as well. So um it was mainly the two of them that kind of worked with us on the album.
Do you find that he kind of like got what you were going for straight away, or do you think you had to kind of like tease out the ideas a little bit?
I think he definitely had his own ideas of what he wanted to do with us from listening to our previous stuff. Like, you know, obviously he listened to our albums, like the first two we did, and he was kind of like, you know, he liked it, but he was like, he had his own idea for what he wanted us to sound like, you know. I think he got that across the Cian in those first few meetings. Um, Particularly for me, I found him like really helpful with vocals and stuff. Um, like we'd we'd kind of hole up in the studio ourselves, and the lads would go away for pints or something like, and me and Rory would kind of like get stuck into it for a few hours, and he uh he was really good with getting the most out of my vocal like as possible, you know. Learned a lot of stuff in there, and did a lot of things in there like that I didn't think would have been possible going in, like, you know. So yeah, I thought he was brilliant that way, and I think he was a lot more present too with the lads too, and like he was like, you know, because Alex was able to man the desk and stuff as an engineer, like
Yeah.
Rory was able to get a lot more hands on in the studio and be in the room with us, like, you know. Um, you know, I think we kind of went for a kind of a kind of live aspect on the album when we were recording. We wanted it to sound as live as possible, and he was great for like getting involved with that, and yeah, he got very hands-on. Like I thought he was brilliant.
Do you find like the years of touring you guys have done and playing shows has kind of, because like when you're building a set list for any given night, there's kind of like, I guess, a sort of roller coaster that all artists are kind of trying to achieve, like the highs and the lows and the midpoints and all that. So I was wondering, that kind of like, was that a benefit then in terms of like constructing the record, the track list rather, for the record? Was that a benefit?
Maybe, yeah, a bit. I think before we started recording, we were saying that we wanted the album to feel more like a live set. Like if you went to see like a band playing in a big venue, like what would it sound like, So it kind of yeah, it kind of cut out a lot of slow songs and kind of more yeah, down tempo stuff that we would have probably worked on before. Yeah, I'd say this album is, yeah, it's more like a live feel to it, yeah.
And I just have two final things, and let's just get on with your day. So one I wanted to ask about was the kind of sort of release pattern for this album cycle. So you mentioned that there's going to be singles before the album comes out. I assume the album's probably coming out like next yearish, I guess. But in terms
Yeah.
of when's the kind of like I guess like the release pattern, like in terms of like the time between each release, what are we kind of like looking at roughly?
I think we're looking at give or take maybe 6 weeks in
Yeah.
between singles, and then hoping to have the album out late February, early March. And I suppose that's all kind of to be confirmed with tour dates and stuff. Can we get the availability in the venues and stuff like that? So as long as we can kind of coincide tour dates and stuff, it'll be around late February, early March. But yeah, I think now that we started the singles, it'll hopefully add the next one out in September, and then every 6 weeks after that. I suppose it depends on momentum too as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. And the fun thing I just want to ask is about the rest of 2025. So, as we're speaking, you're about to play all together now next week. But beyond that, I mean, like, are you playing much live for the rest of the year, or are you kind of just focused on the releases?
I
I think
mean,
we'd take as much as we can get, really, wouldn't we?
yeah, like we don't have much booked in after altogether now. We have a couple of things, a couple of small things here and there. But yeah, it's kind of focus on the releases as much as we can and then take what we can get for the end of 2025. Because like we know in early next year we will be wanting to go on a tour for the album. So that is the next big thing that we're kind of working on. And then yeah, in between that we'll like take what we can get, yeah, and keep building the momentum, like yeah.
Perfect. Thanks very much for your time, guys. Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up, or?
Not really. Just thanks for having us on. It's been great
Oh,
chatting
absolutely.
with
Thanks
you.
for doing it.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
and best of luck with everything you have coming up, and everything you're doing.
Yeah. Really nice to meet you, Aaron.
Very nice to meet you too, Keen,
Yeah.
and all of you.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Peter, Tony, thanks very much.
Thanks very
Cheers.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. Catch you soon.
Take care. Bye. Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. We're an independent venture run by yours truly, and as I said at the beginning, liking, rating, subscribing and sharing really helps us out a lot. If you're feeling extra generous, we do have a PayPal donation link in the episode description, but don't feel obligated, of course. We've also begun releasing occasional exclusive episodes on Spotify, so subscribe there if you'd be interested in hearing those. Thanks again for listening, and see you next time.